What is going on, guys? Kalua here. Today I'm going to be going over the fundamentals of filming and keyframing in SKATERXL. Now, I will point out that I am on PC, but the overall principle is the same no matter what platform you're on, whether it be PC, Xbox, or PlayStation. With that being said, let's get started. As you can see here, I'm actually starting pretty far from where the first trick takes place. This actually helps out with your keyframing not to look so robotic when you're placing them down. It also helps out with the editing process to have that extra layer of fat towards the beginning and the end of your clip. Alright, so if you are new to SKATERXL and you're looking back at this playback menu and it looks a bit confusing, don't worry about it, we'll go over that in just a second. All I'm doing right now is trimming all the unnecessary stuff that I don't need in order to get the clip that I want. Like I said before, I feel that it's necessary, in my opinion, that it's necessary to have that extra layer of fat towards the beginning and the end, not just for editing purposes, but also for keyframing. It really helps out to make your clip look a bit more natural. So all the filming that I do is done on free mode. As you can see on top here, movement on free. So what I'm gonna do is place my camera where I'm gonna start at. So I'm gonna start here. And I just want to make sure that I'm in the right position, so I'm going to play forward just a little bit to see if my skater is going to line up to where I'm at, which it looks like I am. So I push back, add my first keyframe here, then I'm going to add my second keyframe right before he pops. After the second keyframe is placed, we're going to move on to the third, which would be right here after the nollie clip is landed. As you can see, the used keyframes are off. I'm going to position my camera here, add a keyframe, and then I'm going to start working backwards. I've noticed working backwards, the camera moves a lot more fluid than it would be if I were working forward. So add a keyframe here, move it around, turn the keyframes off to move the camera, add a keyframe here, turn it back on to see what it's going to look like, and then add a keyframe here. And I'm just going to keep doing this over and over until I get the perfect composition for the first trick. And then I'm just going to check to see what it looks like. It looks pretty natural to me, but I did notice something here. So I add a keyframe right about here in the middle, so he's still kind of in frame here. And then I'm just going to check it. Moving on to the third trick. Gonna go all the way over here, make sure that my camera's tilted however I want it, and then place my keyframe right about here where he lands. And then again, I'm going to start working backwards, so add a keyframe here, move backwards, add a keyframe here, and then I will add a keyframe right about here, and then see how that plays out with this. As you can see, all the keyframes that I have, even though some are very close to each other, you can see that the camera moves a bit more natural because I was working backwards. If I were to do those close keyframes together as I was working forward, it would look really robotic, and I have no idea why it works like this, but it does. So we're gonna move on to the last trick here, and as you can see, I have to stop because that's where the gap is. So I add a keyframe here, move it backwards, add a keyframe right about here, move backwards just a tad bit, keyframe here, position my camera, add a keyframe there, and now I'm just going to check to see if everything's working together. So let's play it forward. Everything seems to be working nicely. All the keyframes, even though they're close together, like I said, they're just working really fluidly. And as we come here to the last trick, the extra layer of fat, I noticed that some people will stop here and not add any more keyframes, but I just like to add a little bit of camera tilt with that extra layer of fat towards the end. That way it just gives it a little extra movement so it's not just stopping to a complete halt. Now, after all that's said and done, let's see how the clip looks. Before we move on to stationary fisheye filming, I just wanted to say that the way that I'm doing things is not the only way to film in SKATERXL. If these techniques do not work for you, that's okay. There's plenty of other tutorials out there with different techniques that will help you learn how to film in SKATERXL. I just wanted to show you guys how I do things and how it works for me. So without further ado, let's move on to stationary fisheye filming. For this stationary fisheye trick, I'm just going to do something simple. There's a little back 3 off this set here. Like I said, I'm going to give myself some room to work with, so just roll all the way over here. Then I'm going to play back. Then I'm going to trim what I don't need. So trim it. And then when it comes to stationary fisheye, you don't need too much, but you want enough. So I'm going to have some room right about here. Cut it here. Clip it, and then go to free mode on my camera, and then I'm going to position my camera where the skater is going to line up with me. I'm going to have my composition here, just look at it, see how it looks. Alright, add my keyframe right about here, and I'm going to go right here, right before he pops. There we go. And I'm going to go all the way towards the end, tilt my camera into another position, add my keyframe, and then work backwards. So turn off my keyframes, just move the camera, add a keyframe there, move the camera again, add a keyframe here, add a keyframe right about here. And it's looking pretty good so far. And like I said, I don't want it to come to a complete halt, so I'm going to tilt the camera, add a keyframe, and then add a keyframe with some tilt right about here, and then same at the end. And let's see how it looks. And last but not least is long lens filming. When it comes to this type of filming, I cannot stress this enough. Composition is everything. This will either make or break how your trick is perceived to the viewer. And I know that sounds silly in video game terms, but this is a skateboarding simulator, and we try to make the skating and filming to feel as real as possible to whoever's watching. And also, I feel like when it comes to long lens filming, this is the most important type of filming because it actually showcases that person's eye and how they position their camera angles and stuff like that. So I went with a front set flip off this gap here, so I'm going to trim all the unnecessary fat. After I get all the fat trimmed and I have the clip that I want, I'm going to find a perfect spot to angle my camera. And if this were real life, I would probably film on top of this rooftop here. It actually shows how long the gap is. So I'm going to position my camera right about here. I'm going to pan out, put my keyframe there, and let's pan forward. And a bit different from the fisheye, I'm not going to keyframe where he pops. I'm actually going to keyframe right where he lands. So right about there. I'm going to angle my camera. Okay, zoom in just a tad bit to see where I want to be. Seems pretty good right here, so I'll add my keyframe right about here. Then I'm going to work backwards again. Angle my camera right about here. Seems like you can see the set still. Move back. Zoom out a little bit. Add a keyframe here. As you can see, it pans in. My skater comes into frame. Pop the frontside flip. And now I'm just going to pan into the skater to get a realistic type of like pan in and pan out type of shot. So get a shot of his feet and then come up to his shoulder head area, put a keyframe here, and then I'm just going to pan outward down over here. And when all is said and done, I'm going to add the last keyframes towards the end, and that's pretty much it. And let's see how it looks. and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys learned something today. Like I said, this is the only way to film in SKATERXL, but it's the way I do things. I just wanted to showcase how I do it and see if it helped out anybody. If it did, I would appreciate you guys if you would like and subscribe, and also share with your friends who are also trying to learn. But until next time, here's a little montage. Peace.
Town, the beast is loose. Word of up, y'all. On the town, the beast is loose. Come on.
Conflicts with nightsticks, illegal sales districts, handpicked lunatics, keep politicians rich, heretics, push narcotics and miss this risks and frisks. Cool clicks, throw bricks, but seldom get targets. Private dicks sell hits like porno flicks do chicks. The 666 cut wick like Luke and Grit sucks dick.
Meanwhile, the government brings Star Wars from Glock to Glock. COP has an APB out on Chewbacca. Mr. Mayor, could I say something in your honor? Yesterday in Central Park, they got the jogger. Okay, let's get the confusion straight in ghetto Gotham. The man behind the mask you thought was Batman's Bill Clinton, who soon retire. The roof is on fire. Connie Chung run the bomb as it comes from Oklahoma. Things are getting serious. Kumbaya. On a mountain, Satan offer me Manhattan, help me, Jaja. You can't search me without probable cause or that proper ammunition they call reasonable suspicion. Listen, I bring friction to your whole jurisdiction.